Welcome to Books and More Audio, the channel where timeless ideas meet modern insight. Here, we explore the world's most inspiring books through concise, powerful summaries designed to help you grow, think, and live with purpose. In this episode, we dive into Deep Work by Cal Newport, a groundbreaking guide to mastering focus in a distracted age. Newport shows that success and fulfillment don't come from being busy, but from learning to concentrate deeply, create meaningful work, and live intentionally. Listen, reflect, and discover how deep work can transform your mind and your life. Introduction: The Power of Deep Work. I want to begin with an image that has always stayed with me: psychiatrist Carl Jung in his stone tower by Lake Zurich, Switzerland. He didn't go there to escape the world, but to create a space for total focus, a sanctuary where he could think deeply, write, and shape ideas that would change the course of psychology. In that solitude, Jung practiced what I call deep work, the ability to focus intensely without distraction, pushing the mind to its limits to produce work of true value. When I studied the lives of great thinkers and creators, from Michel de Montaigne and Mark Twain to Woody Allen, Peter Higgs, and J.K. Rowling, I noticed one thing they all had in common: they devoted time to deep, undisturbed focus. They understood that creativity doesn't bloom in noise. It needs silence, discipline, and space. Bill Gates, for instance, famously took his think weeks, periods of isolation for reflection and study, and those moments became the source of ideas that transformed Microsoft. But today, our world is built to destroy focus. Notifications, emails, and endless social feeds fragment our attention until we forget what it feels like to think deeply. Studies show that modern knowledge workers spend more than 60% of their time responding to messages and browsing the web. We are drowning in information but starved for meaning. And the more we adapt to distraction, the more we lose the ability to concentrate, just as an untrained muscle weakens over time. What we call being busy is often just shallow work, reactive tasks that are easy to do but add little real value. They create the illusion of productivity while preventing us from engaging in meaningful creation. Deep work, on the other hand, is the path to learning fast, producing exceptional results, and achieving long-term success. Take Jason Ben, for example, a former finance worker who, through disciplined focus and deliberate practice, taught himself to code and became a skilled programmer. In just months, his career transformed completely. His story proves that deep work isn't just for philosophers or artists, it's a survival skill in the information age. I believe that the ability to perform deep work is becoming rare at the exact time it is becoming most valuable. In a world obsessed with connection and speed, those who can focus will rise above the rest. They will learn faster, think deeper, and create more meaningful contributions. Deep work, in this sense, is not merely a skill, it's a superpower. Over the years, I've built my life around this principle. While many of my peers were buried under emails and meetings, I designed my days to protect blocks of deep work. That discipline allowed me to write books, complete my PhD at MIT, publish research, and still have evenings free for family and reading. I discovered that deep work not only makes you more effective, it makes you more human. This book is my attempt to share that discovery. It's a call to reclaim your mind from distraction and build a life defined by focus, purpose, and craftsmanship. In the chapters ahead, I'll explain why deep work is so valuable and show you how to cultivate it, step by step, until it becomes a natural part of who you are. Because, like Jung in his Boredom Tower, you too can build your own sanctuary of focus, a place where you work deeply, think clearly, and live fully. Chapter 1: Deep Work is Valuable. In the opening chapter, I argue that in today's knowledge-driven economy, deep work is not just useful, it is indispensable. We live in a time when technology evolves faster than ever, and those who can focus intensely, learn quickly, and produce at a high level will rise far above those who cannot. The ability to concentrate deeply is the new competitive advantage, and yet it's disappearing from the modern workplace. The digital world has created an illusion of productivity. People spend their days sending emails, attending meetings, updating dashboards, staying busy, but rarely doing anything that truly matters. This is what I call shallow work, fragmented, reactive, and easy to replicate. In contrast, deep work requires sustained attention and cognitive intensity. It's the kind of work that pushes your mental limits and creates real value. Writing a paper, solving a problem, crafting a design, or developing a new skill. To succeed in the modern world, you need two core abilities. The ability to quickly master hard things, the ability to produce at an elite level in both quality and speed. Both depend entirely on your capacity to focus deeply without distraction. Yet our culture celebrates multitasking and constant connectivity, habits that directly undermine the very abilities that lead to mastery. I illustrate this through the story of Carl Jung, who built his stone tower by Lake Zurich to retreat from distraction and think in solitude. Jung knew that meaningful insight required depth, not noise. Similarly, Bill Gates famously took think weeks to isolate himself, read, and plan the future of Microsoft. Some of his greatest ideas came from those periods of quiet concentration. These examples show that deep work is the foundation of high achievement, whether in science, business, or art. But deep work isn't only about professional success, it also brings fulfillment. When you immerse yourself in something difficult and meaningful, your mind enters what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls the flow state, a state of total engagement where time disappears and satisfaction emerges from pure focus. Shallow work can make you busy, but only deep work makes you feel alive. In a world overflowing with distractions, this kind of focus is becoming rare, and precisely because of that, its value is skyrocketing. Those who master deep work will be the ones who innovate, create, and lead. The rest will remain trapped in the shallows, constantly reacting but never progressing. I close the chapter with a simple truth. If you want to stand out, you must go deep. Deep work is not a luxury reserved for geniuses. It's a deliberate choice, a discipline anyone can build. In the chapters that follow, I will show you not only why deep work matters, but how to make it the central force that shapes your career, your creativity, and your life. Chapter 2. The Rarity of Deep Work. In this chapter, I explore a paradox of our era. Even though deep work is becoming more valuable than ever, it is simultaneously vanishing from our culture. The modern workplace, with its constant communication, open offices, and obsession with instant responses, has been engineered to destroy focus. Instead of rewarding meaningful results, it celebrates visible busyness. People equate activity with achievement, mistaking motion for progress. Most knowledge workers spend their days switching between emails, meetings, and social feeds. They feel productive because they're always doing something, yet rarely engage in sustained thinking. This is the rise of shallow work, easy, logistical, and often meaningless. The danger is not just wasted time, it's the gradual erosion of our capacity for focus. Every interruption trains the brain to crave distraction until sustained attention becomes uncomfortable or even impossible. Modern companies amplify this problem through what I call the culture of connectivity. Employees are expected to be reachable at all times, and managers equate responsiveness with dedication. The result is a system that punishes silence and rewards interruption. The irony is striking. The very habits we use to stay efficient are the same ones destroying our ability to do work that matters. On a neurological level, this environment reshapes how our minds operate. Constant task switching leaves behind attention residue, fragments of thought from the previous task that reduce cognitive clarity in the next. Over time, the brain learns to prefer novelty and stimulation over depth and effort. Like a muscle never pushed to strain, it weakens. The more we indulge in distraction, the less capable we become of genuine concentration. I've met countless professionals who confuse digital busyness for productivity. They respond instantly to messages, attend every meeting, and live in a state of perpetual partial attention. But deep down, they feel unfulfilled because they know they are not creating, only reacting. In a world obsessed with speed, the ability to slow down and think deeply is the ultimate rebellion. Why has this happened? Partly because organizations mistake visible activity for real value. When managers cannot easily measure true intellectual output, they default to what's easy to observe: attendance, messages, and availability. As a result, people feel pressured to look busy instead of being effective. This phenomenon, busyness as a proxy for productivity, has turned workplaces into theaters of distraction. Meanwhile, the digital ecosystem reinforces the same habits. Social media, instant messaging, and notification loops are designed to hijack attention. Every ping and red icon is a deliberate trigger, engineered to feed our dopamine cravings. In such an environment, choosing to focus for even 90 minutes straight becomes a radical act, but also an incredibly powerful one. I've met countless professionals who confuse digital busyness for productivity. They respond instantly to messages, attend every meeting, and live in a state of perpetual partial attention. But deep down, they feel unfulfilled because they know they are not creating, only reacting. In a world obsessed with speed, the ability to slow down and think deeply is the ultimate rebellion. Why has this happened? Partly because organizations mistake visible activity for real value. When managers cannot easily measure true intellectual output, they default to what's easy to observe: attendance, messages, and availability. As a result, people feel pressured to look busy instead of being effective. This phenomenon, busyness as a proxy for productivity, has turned workplaces into theaters of distraction. Meanwhile, the digital ecosystem reinforces the same habits. Social media, instant messaging, and notification loops are designed to hijack attention. Every ping and red icon is a deliberate trigger, engineered to feed our dopamine cravings. In such an environment, choosing to focus for even 90 minutes straight becomes a radical act, but also an incredibly powerful one. The truth is simple but profound. You cannot produce anything great while being constantly distracted. Excellence requires depth. Insight demands silence. The mind needs solitude to connect ideas in ways that no algorithm can. And in a world where most people are addicted to the shallow, the one who can go deep will always stand out. This chapter closes with a warning and a promise. The warning: if you don't actively protect your attention, the world will take it from you, bit by bit, click by click. The promise: if you reclaim it, if you train your mind to resist distraction and embrace stillness, you'll unlock a power that few people today possess: the ability to think clearly, work deeply, and create meaning in a chaotic age. Chapter 3: Deep Work is Meaningful. After proving that deep work is both valuable and rare, I now turn to the question of why it matters on a deeper human level. Beyond success and productivity, deep work gives life richness and purpose. It fulfills a psychological and spiritual need: the need to feel truly engaged, to create, and to grow. In this chapter, I argue that doing deep work is not only how we thrive professionally, but also how we find meaning in an increasingly distracted world. Modern life often leaves us feeling restless and hollow. We are surrounded by information and entertainment, yet few of these experiences leave us fulfilled. Many end their days exhausted, asking themselves, "What did I really accomplish today?" The problem isn't a lack of effort, it's that our effort is scattered. We spend our energy reacting to the trivial instead of engaging with the essential. Deep work, by contrast, reconnects us to what it means to live intentionally. When you concentrate deeply on a challenging, meaningful task, you experience a profound sense of progress and satisfaction. The human brain is designed to thrive under focused challenge. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called this state flow, when attention, skill, and challenge align perfectly and time seems to disappear. People who regularly experience flow are not only more productive but also report higher levels of happiness. Deep work is the surest path to flow because it demands full attention and rewards genuine effort. But deep work does more than create flow, it cultivates a sense of craftsmanship. To dedicate yourself fully to something difficult and worthwhile is an act of integrity. Like the artisans of old, who poured their souls into perfecting every detail of their work, modern professionals can find the same satisfaction in mastering their craft. The meaning doesn't come from fame or recognition, but from the quiet pride of doing something well for its own sake. In this sense, deep work is a moral act, a commitment to quality, to discipline, and to respect for your own potential. There's also a deeper psychological truth. What you focus on becomes your reality. As writer Winifred Gallagher observed, your life is the sum of what you pay attention to. If your attention is consumed by the shallow, by gossip, noise, or endless scrolling, your life will feel fragmented and empty. But if you train your mind to focus on what truly matters, your life becomes coherent, purposeful, and meaningful. Attention is not just a skill, it's the foundation of happiness itself. Deep work, then, is not a rejection of the modern world, but a way to reclaim control over it. It teaches you to resist the pull of constant stimulation and to rediscover the joy of thinking clearly. It reminds you that value, real, lasting value, comes from depth, not speed. When you commit to working deeply, you build a life grounded in purpose rather than distraction. I conclude this chapter with a simple but transformative idea. Depth is the antidote to shallowness. When you choose to focus, to immerse yourself in a task, to master a skill, to create something beautiful or important, you are not merely working. You are engaging with life at its highest level. Deep work is how we connect with our humanity in a world that constantly tries to scatter it. In the end, to live deeply is to live meaningfully. To work deeply is to honor both your craft and your mind. And once you've experienced that clarity, that calm, powerful state of flow, you'll understand that the greatest reward of deep work is not just achievement, but a profound sense of being fully alive. Chapter 4. Rule number 1. Work deeply. In the first 3 chapters, we learned that deep work is a rare and precious skill, the foundation of both success and fulfillment. But knowing its value isn't enough. The real question is, how do we actually live a deep life in a world built for distraction? This chapter introduces the first rule: work deeply. It's about transforming deep work from an occasional burst of focus into a deliberate, consistent habit that defines your days. To achieve this, you must first accept a truth: your environment and habits shape your focus far more than your willpower. You cannot rely on inspiration to guide you into deep work. You must design systems that make it inevitable. I describe 4 philosophies for scheduling deep work, different approaches that fit different lifestyles. The monastic philosophy: eliminate or drastically reduce shallow obligations to maximize focus. This is the path of people like Carl Jung or Neil Stephenson, who isolate themselves from distractions to create at the highest level. The bimodal philosophy: divide your time between long periods of deep work and periods of shallow interaction. Think of Bill Gates's Think Weeks. The rhythmic philosophy: build deep work into your daily routine by setting fixed times every day, for example, 3 hours each morning. The journalistic philosophy: slip into deep work whenever you can, like a journalist who writes between assignments. This requires exceptional mental agility. The goal isn't to choose the right one, but to commit to one and honor it with discipline. Deep work must be treated like a ritual, with a clear beginning, ending, and structure. Decide in advance where you'll work, for how long, and on what task. The fewer decisions you make in the moment, the more energy you'll have for true concentration. I also stress the importance of ritual and routine. Rituals eliminate friction and signal to your brain that it's time to focus. Whether it's setting up your workspace, closing the door, or preparing a cup of coffee, repetition turns intention into instinct. Over time, you'll find that the mind slips naturally into the state of flow once the ritual begins. But deep work also requires a balance between intensity and rest. The brain cannot sustain high focus indefinitely. Research suggests that most people can manage between 4 to 6 hours of deep work per day at most. Beyond that, the quality of thought collapses. Thus, ending your workday at a fixed time is not a weakness, it's a necessity. I recommend a deliberate shutdown ritual. When you finish, close your laptop, make a note of what's next, and say to yourself, "Workday complete." This allows your mind to recover, ensuring tomorrow's focus is sharp. Measurement is another key. Keep track of your deep work hours daily or weekly. By quantifying your focus, you build accountability and momentum. Like an athlete tracking workouts, you'll start to see progress, and that progress fuels consistency. Above all, embrace boredom and resist distraction. Every moment you check your phone or email when bored, you reinforce a habit of seeking instant gratification. Instead, practice staying still. Let your mind settle into the silence. The ability to resist distraction is not innate, it's trained, minute by minute, decision by decision. The heart of rule number 1 is this: deep work is not something you occasionally find time for. It's something you build your life around. You schedule it, protect it, and treat it as sacred. When you do, your days transform, not just in productivity, but in quality. You begin to move through life with purpose, working not harder, but deeper. To work deeply is to live intentionally. It's choosing craftsmanship over chaos, meaning over motion. And once you've experienced the clarity and fulfillment of true focus, you'll understand. Deep work is not merely a skill, it's a way of being. Chapter 5. Rule #2. Embrace boredom. If the first rule teaches you how to create time and space for deep work, the second rule teaches you how to train your mind to stay there. You cannot simply decide to focus. You must cultivate focus as a skill. And that begins with something most people now avoid: boredom. We live in an age where every idle moment is instantly filled. Waiting in line, walking down the street, or even sitting quietly feels unbearable without checking a screen. But this constant stimulation weakens our mental endurance. The ability to concentrate deeply depends on your capacity to tolerate the absence of novelty. If you always respond to distraction, you're training your brain to expect it. Deep work requires deliberate attention, and attention requires restraint. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone, to open another tab, or to refresh your inbox, you strengthen your focus muscle. The key then is not to eliminate distraction completely, but to practice resisting it. You must rewire your brain to find comfort in silence, to stay with a single thought even when your mind wants to wander. I call this principle, don't take breaks from distraction, take breaks from focus. Most people allow themselves to be distracted all day, believing that they can suddenly switch into concentration when needed. But attention doesn't work like that. If you let your brain wander freely for hours, it won't obey you when you ask it to focus. Instead, you should schedule intentional periods of deep work and only afterward reward yourself with downtime, not the other way around. A powerful way to strengthen focus is through what I call productive meditation. This involves using moments of low mental demand, walking, commuting, doing chores, to think deeply about a single, well-defined problem. The challenge is to keep your mind anchored, returning to the problem each time it drifts away. It's like weightlifting for your attention. At first, it feels difficult, even frustrating, but with practice, you'll find yourself capable of sustaining deeper thought for longer periods. Another key strategy is to schedule your distractions. Decide in advance when you'll check messages, browse the web, or use social media, and stick to those windows. When you know that another opportunity for distraction is coming, it becomes easier to resist temptation in the moment. Over time, this trains your brain that focus is the default state, not a temporary effort. It's also important to understand that true rest doesn't come from shallow distraction. Many people think that scrolling through social media or checking notifications gives them a break. In reality, it keeps their mind in a state of agitation, never fully recovering. The only real rest comes from stepping away, from screens, from stimulation, and letting the brain wander freely without external input. Ironically, genuine boredom is restorative. This rule is, at its core, a call to reclaim your mental autonomy. The modern world is filled with forces designed to exploit your attention, and if you don't take control, they will control you. Training your mind to embrace boredom is how you break that cycle. It's how you regain the ability to think clearly in a noisy world. When you master this, you'll discover something profound. The silence that once felt uncomfortable becomes fertile. In boredom, ideas connect. In stillness, creativity blooms. The moments you once filled with noise will start producing insight instead. That's the paradox of rule number 2. By learning to tolerate boredom, you unlock the deepest form of focus. And once you can focus at will, you hold a power that almost no one else today possesses: the ability to do deep work on command. Chapter 6, Rule number 3, Quit social media. After learning how to build deep work into your daily life and strengthen your focus through boredom, the next challenge is reclaiming the most precious resource of all, your attention. In this chapter, I argue that the biggest threat to deep work isn't just external noise or busyness, it's the endless pull of social media. These platforms are designed to keep you hooked, scattering your focus into fragments and making sustained thinking nearly impossible. Social media doesn't exist to make you more informed or productive. It exists to capture and monetize your attention. Every notification, every red dot, every like is a deliberate psychological trigger designed to reward you in small, unpredictable bursts, the same mechanism that keeps gamblers at slot machines. You think you're using these platforms freely, but in reality, they are using you. The cost isn't just wasted time, it's the slow erosion of your ability to concentrate, to be alone with your thoughts, and to create something meaningful. I often hear people say, I need social media for my job, or I have to stay connected. But that reasoning is flawed. What most people truly need are the benefits they think social media provide: professional visibility, communication, inspiration, not the platforms themselves. The problem is that we treat all tools as equally valuable. Instead, I suggest adopting the craftsman's approach to tool selection. A craftsman doesn't use every tool available, only those that directly serve his craft. In the same way, you should evaluate each digital platform by asking, does this tool significantly support what I value most in my professional or personal life? Does the benefit outweigh the distraction it creates? If the answer is no, you should eliminate it, no matter how popular or useful it seems. The point is not to reject technology, but to use it deliberately. You should own your tools, not be owned by them. I propose a simple experiment. Take a 30-day break from all optional technologies. After a month, ask yourself 2 questions. Did this absence harm my personal or professional life? Did I miss it enough to bring it back? For most people, the answers are eye-opening. They realize that life goes on, relationships remain intact, and the time regained brings unexpected peace and clarity. What was once thought essential turns out to be optional and often harmful. It's also important to understand that you don't owe anyone your attention. Social media makes you feel obligated to stay present, to keep up, but this is an illusion. Your time and focus are yours alone.
Every moment spent reacting online is a moment stolen from something deeper, a project, a passion, or a person right in front of you. You can only think deeply if you protect your attention fiercely. That's why I advocate setting strict boundaries for digital use, even for necessary tools. Designate specific times to check messages or updates and avoid constant exposure. Turn off notifications, keep your phone out of reach while working, and replace mindless scrolling with intentional activities, reading, thinking, or simply doing nothing. Once you remove the constant noise, you'll rediscover how calm and clear your mind can be. What many fear most about quitting social media, disconnection, is actually what they need most. When you step away, the world becomes quieter and your inner world becomes richer. You'll notice that ideas surface naturally when the mind isn't being constantly interrupted. You'll begin to feel more present in conversations, more creative in thought, and more alive in your own reality. Rule number 3 is not a call to reject technology, it's a call to reclaim sovereignty over your attention. Social media isn't evil, but it is powerful, and without discipline, it will shape your mind for you. The deeper life demands the opposite: deliberate choice, clarity, and control. When you quit or limit social media intentionally, you send a message to the world and to yourself that your attention has value. You no longer let algorithms decide what deserves your focus. You decide. And in doing so, you create the quiet necessary for depth, creativity, and meaning to return. Because in the end, to live deeply, you must learn to guard your mind as fiercely as a craftsman guards his tools.
Chapter 7, Rule Number 4, Drain the Shallows. In this final rule, I emphasize that mastering deep work isn't only about adding focus, it's equally about removing what dilutes it. Most people fail to work deeply not because they lack discipline, but because their schedules are overwhelmed with shallow tasks, easy, visible, but ultimately meaningless. To live a deep life, you must systematically eliminate these distractions and build a structure that protects your attention. First, it's important to recognize what shallow work truly is. These are tasks that don't require much concentration: emails, meetings, status updates, administrative chores. They make you feel busy, but rarely move you closer to meaningful goals. In contrast, deep work demands intensity and thought. If your day is dominated by shallow work, your mind never reaches the level of depth needed for real creativity or progress. The modern workplace, unfortunately, rewards shallowness. We measure productivity by visibility, how quickly we reply, how many meetings we attend, not by the value we create. I call this the illusion of busyness. In such an environment, people confuse motion for progress, constantly reacting to others instead of building something that matters. To break free, you must redefine what work means to you, and that starts by tracking how you spend your time. One of the most effective strategies I suggest is time block planning. Divide your day into blocks of focused activity, assigning every minute a purpose, whether it's deep work, shallow work, rest, or leisure. This method doesn't restrict you, it liberates you. It forces you to see where your time truly goes and prevents shallow tasks from expanding to fill your entire day. When every block has intent, even your rest becomes more meaningful. Next, set a hard boundary for the end of your workday. For me, that's 5:30 p.m. sharp. Once that time arrives, I perform a brief shutdown ritual, review my notes, plan tomorrow, and then mentally declare workday complete. After that, I don't check email or think about work. This rule might seem rigid, but it has a powerful effect. It compresses your available hours, forcing you to prioritize the deep and discard the trivial. Ironically, strict limits create more freedom, not less. To measure progress, I recommend tracking your deep to shallow work ratio. Ask yourself, out of all the hours you work each day, how many are truly deep? If the number is low, your schedule is dominated by noise. Your goal should be to steadily increase the proportion of deep work over time, not by working more hours, but by working fewer, more intentional hours. A crucial part of draining the shallows is learning to say no. Every yes to a small request, an extra meeting, a quick favor, a trivial email is a no to hours of potential deep work. Many people fear saying no because they equate it with being unhelpful or impolite. But in reality, it's a declaration of purpose. When you refuse shallow demands, you're protecting the limited time that allows you to create something extraordinary. This principle also applies to organizations. Companies filled with constant communication, unclear priorities, and open-ended collaboration will always drown in shallow work. True productivity comes from clarity, knowing what matters most and focusing collective effort on it. As individuals, we can't change every system, but we can control our own boundaries. By modeling depth, we often inspire others to do the same. Ultimately, rule number 4 is about choosing quality over quantity, in time, in effort, in life. Every hour you reclaim from the shallow is an hour you can dedicate to mastery, to creation, to growth. When you drain the shallows, you rediscover the peace and pride that come from giving your full attention to what truly matters. I close this rule and the book with a simple truth. A deep life is a good life. It's not built by accident, but by intention. It's the result of hundreds of small decisions, to say no when it's easier to say yes, to focus when distraction beckons, to value craftsmanship over convenience. When you live this way, your days become clearer, your work becomes meaningful, and your mind finally becomes your own. Conclusion. A deep life is a good life. In the conclusion, I reaffirm the central message of this book. Deep work is not just a professional skill, it is a philosophy of living. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and endless digital stimulation, the ability to focus deeply is both rare and transformative. It's not only the key to producing great work, but also to experiencing purpose, satisfaction, and peace. Throughout this book, I've argued that the modern world rewards those who can think clearly, learn quickly, and create meaningful results, and that all of these abilities depend on deep work. Yet, as we chase convenience, speed, and constant connection, we unknowingly sacrifice our greatest strength, the capacity for undivided attention. Our attention defines our life, and when we give it away carelessly, we live shallowly. The stories of great thinkers like Carl Jung, Bill Gates, and countless creators remind us that breakthroughs are born not from busyness, but from depth. Real progress happens when we isolate ourselves from the noise and wrestle with problems long enough for true insight to emerge. Deep work, then, is both an economic advantage and a moral act. It's a commitment to excellence in a world that rewards mediocrity. But this commitment requires courage. Choosing to focus in a culture of distraction is an act of quiet rebellion. It means saying no when the world pressures you to always be available. It means protecting your time as something sacred, and it means believing that a meaningful life is built not from reaction, but from intention. The truth is, you cannot live deeply if you're always connected. The 4 rules in this book, work deeply, embrace boredom, quit social media, and drain the shallows, are not mere productivity hacks. They form a system for taking back control of your mind and your days. When applied with discipline, they don't just make you more effective, they make you feel more alive. Deep work gives structure to chaos, meaning to effort, and joy to creation. To live deeply is to choose quality over quantity, in your time, your attention, and your ambitions. It means crafting each day with purpose, creating work that endures, and allowing silence to guide your thoughts. When you live this way, you realize that focus is not a restriction, but freedom. The freedom to build, to think, and to truly be present. So I end with this conviction: a deep life is a good life. It's not an escape from the modern world, but the only sane way to exist within it. In a culture that celebrates the shallow, choosing depth is an act of defiance and an act of love. Because when you master your attention, you master your destiny. And that, above all else, is what it means to live and work deeply.